Hey YouTube, Halo Guy here. Today I want to talk a bit about Halo's place in the wider gaming landscape in terms of its popularity, specifically in relation to other upcoming shooters coming out in the very near future, more specifically this year. Now, IGN had a poll up on their website for which upcoming shooter are people most interested in. Now, 15,000 people took part in this, and the results are as follows on screen. 29.2% of the 15,000 said Halo Infinite, 28.5% Borderlands 3, 17.6% Doom Eternal, 13.6% Call of Duty Modern Warfare, 7.5% Gears 5, and 3.6% Wolfenstein Young Blood. Now, personally, I was quite surprised at this. Now, I knew that the hype for Halo was real, but I also know that Borderlands 3 and Call of Duty really should have been higher on this poll. Now, Call of Duty gets a lot of flack every single year, and everyone hates it, everyone dislikes the trailers, so on and so forth, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the best selling games every single year without fail, even with Infinite Warfare and its 2 million dislikes on its release trailer. And for Borderlands 3, the last game that came out was Borderlands 2, and that was in 2012, I'm pretty sure. So that game really is quite highly anticipated, and it has been for a while. So it got me thinking, does this show an accurate representation of what people are most excited for? Or are people who watch IGN and are subscribed to IGN maybe a little bit biased? Or worse yet, was this poll fixed? I doubt it, but I thought I'd have a little look into Google Trends to see some search results, just to see where Halo is actually in relation to all these games, because at the end of the day, Halo always gets a ton of hype around it, but then when push comes to shove and people want go to buy the game, it doesn't tend to sell as well as other shooters out there for some reason, which is the exact opposite for COD. Strange, but let's just take a trip to Google Trends quickly. So as you can see, we have Halo in the blue, Call of Duty in the red, Doom in the yellow, Gears of War in the green, and Borderlands in the purple. Now, this graph is the interest over time over the past 30 days for each of these games. I thought the past 30 days would zoom it in so that it's easier to see, and also it covers the E3 peak and drop off, and also Call of Duty's announcement, which was earlier than E3, so it had a slightly earlier peak, but we can still compare the peaks and where it tapered off to. Okay, so the first event was Call of Duty Modern Warfare being announced, which was on the May 30th. Now, this gained the highest amount of traction, full stop. Just as I suspected before even looking at the trends. So that gives us a baseline for the amount of the total maximum amount of traction that these games are going to be getting. But as you can see down at the bottom, we have Halo and Borderlands basically neck and neck. Below that we have Doom, and then below that we have Gears of War, which is really not looking like it's too popular or doing too well in terms of the interest in Google. But yeah, after it gets announced on May 30th, it starts to die down. Now, even when it dies down, it still tapers off into a relatively high state, around 50% of what it would be getting after the announcement, which is still a lot higher than everything else. So our next point of interest on this graph is June 9th, and that was the Xbox E3 event. This event showed off Halo, Borderlands, and Gears of War. And as you can see, on June 9th, we actually saw all three of these games start their peaks. And what's interesting, just like I said before, Borderlands is significantly higher than Halo. It's significantly higher than COD. It got at 84% of COD's maximum peak, but still pretty good percentage wise. And when Borderlands tapered off, it actually tapered off at a higher point than Call of Duty did, which is interesting. So clearly the anticipation and just the relative interest for Borderlands is higher than Call of Duty this year, which is to be expected. The last game came out, like I said, in 2012, so people are dying for a new one. So during June 9th, Halo didn't quite make it past COD, but in June 10th, where the peaks actually maxed out for some reason, don't know why, but they did, we actually saw it just creep up above COD's tapered point, but it dropped back down to its position of third place on this list. Gears of War peaked a little bit, and when it did peak, it sort of stayed stagnant. It didn't really taper back down. It tapered back down a little bit, but it's still relatively really small, not a lot of interest. So will it sell? Will it be the last Gears? Maybe. I don't know why they keep pushing for more Gears games. I don't see a lot of people talking about it or even buying the games. I don't know I personally don't know anyone that plays Gears of War. That's just me. Google Trends seems to think that it's not a very popular thing. Maybe people just don't watch videos or search about it and they just buy it and play it, who knows, but in terms of Google Trends it's not looking like it's too popular. But then the next day in June 10th was Bethesda's E3, which was pretty terrible in the grand scheme of things, but we did get to see some Doom gameplay, and that helped Doom get a little bit of their peak. Its peak wasn't as high as Halo or Borderlands or COD, but of course it was higher than Gears. But that inevitably tapered off as well, and a couple of days after E3, June 13, 14, 15, 16, so on, we have the standings of Borderlands with the most search results, then COD, then Halo, then Doom, and then Gears of War in last place. Okay, how does that relate to the IGN poll results? Let's have a look. Obviously, like I said, this poll had Halo Infinite as its first place contender. Now, like I said before, the hype and the anticipation of Halo normally exceeds its actual sales and its real interest, which is sort of shown in this Google Trends. Everyone's like, yay, new game, but at the end of the day, no one's really caring that much, it seems. I mean, it's third place, it's not exactly doing awful, and the game does come out next year, not this year, so it gets a bit of a pass in that sort of regard, because all these games are actually coming out this year. But second place in the IGN poll is Borderlands 3, which is first place in this, so it sort of works out. Then we have Doom in third place and COD just below that, but the Google Trends graph has that sort of flipped where COD is above Doom. This goes to the COD trend where everyone's like, no, I hate COD, it's terrible, but at the end of the day, everyone's searching about it, everyone's buying the game, it sells really well every year, no matter how much negative press it gets. Because at the end of the day, negative press is good press. So what does this mean? Will Halo outsell Borderlands 3 and COD? I mean, it could. There's always that possibility. It's not as if Google Trends is some sort of messiah and fortune teller of what's going to happen. If Halo Infinite is genuinely a good game, it will probably sell really well. However, if it's nothing special, it will still sell around the 6, maybe 7 million units mark. But if it really wants to hit that 10 million mark, it's going to have to be something special. And with the direction that 343's taken the game so far that we know of with the art style, which is really all we know about. We know the art style, we know about a new character, we know that he's wearing new armour. We don't know that much in terms of the actual story. So the months leading up to the game's release will be very crucial on how well it initially does in terms of sales. And in that initial reception will determine if the game inevitably reaches 10 million and outsells COD for that year, which is rumoured to be Black Ops 5. Whether or not that's true or not, I'm not even going to get into that. I really hope it's not Black Ops 5. That would just be absolutely ridiculous and pointless, giving Treyarch 2 years to make a game when they can't even make a game in 3 years. Great idea, but that's really all I want to talk about. I saw this poll, I was intrigued by it, because I really thought Borderlands 3 would just get like 70% of the votes and then everything else would just be tiny. But it looks like Halo Infinite seems to be the most anticipated share of this year, even though it's coming out next year, which is interesting. But then when you look at Google Trends, it's sort of the way I would expect it with Borderlands, COD, then Halo, then Doom, then Gears. That is what I expected this graph to go like. Obviously you've got Wolfenstein Youngblood just sort of tapped on at the end there, not really doing much. And then I don't think there's a Battlefield game coming out or announced. It was just some Battlefield 5 DLC, so I was going to include it in the graph, but I didn't have room, so I thought We'll just leave it out, it's not important. By the way, Battlefield's not doing very well in terms of the graph anyway, so it wouldn't really matter. But that's all I really want to talk about today, guys. Leave in the comments down below what you think. Will Halo outsell Borderlands 3? Will it outsell COD this year or next year? Let me know down below. But that's all from me today, guys. Like the video if you enjoyed, it helps the channel out a ton. Subscribe with notifications if you haven't already to stay up to date with all my latest videos as soon as they go live. I'll be covering all Halo news, big or small, so you'll want to keep up with the channel. I'd like to thank you all for watching till the end, I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.